Emily Harrington has literally climbed her way to the top. The 34-year-old rock climber becoming the first woman ever to free climb the famed Golden Gate route of El Capitan, doing it in under 24 hours.
In order to free climb El Cap in a day, you have to cut corners. For me, it was just about balancing what types of risk I was willing to take in order to sacrifice my safety for speed.
A head wound from a bad fall during the climb almost prevented her from completing it.
There was a part of me that didn't want to keep going, but there was this other part of me that just knew that I could do it, and I owed it to myself to try again.
Harrington pushed through, making her way up nearly 3,000 feet of El Cap, one of the biggest, most iconic walls known the world over for its sheer size and difficulty. Harrington is only the fourth person ever to free climb the Golden Gate route in a single day, using just her hands to grip ridges thin as dimes, and ropes only as a safety measure, not to aid the climb.
I feel like anybody could conceivably die on any given day.
The sport of rock climbing made popular in the documentary Free Solo, which followed Alex Honnold as he successfully attempted the first free solo climb of El Capitan, scaling the vertical rock face without any protection from a fall.
It's freaking scary.
Savannah caught up with the world-famous climber in 2018.
And what is the joy of a free solo climb?
Honestly, a big part of the appeal is to be in this position that should be totally scary, should be crazy, but to feel super comfortable.
Honnold, a longtime friend and climbing partner of Harrington, accompanied her on the first two-thirds of her historic climb. Her fiancé, Adrian Ballinger, joined her for the final section, climbing much of the sheer rock in the dark of the night, ultimately achieving what she calls an impossible dream, setting a new record and scaling her way to new heights.
Well, Emily says rock climbing, and particularly free climbing, is typically a sport that is dominated by men, and that for a long time she felt like she didn't belong, making this amazing accomplishment even sweeter. And she hopes that her story will hopefully inspire other women to follow in her footsteps, right up those massive rock faces, if we dare. Savannah and Hoda?
These feet are staying on the ground, but boy, are we inspired, Natalie. Thank you. And that sets us up really nicely to say good morning and congratulations to Emily herself. Emily Harrington joins us now. Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
When you look at that video and you look at you're hanging by your nails off the side of El Cap, do you think, I can't believe I did that?
Yeah, part of me is kind of glad it's over.
You know, we were looking at you. We kind of zoomed in a little bit on that forehead of yours, and we knew that you got a gash partway up the mountain, or partway up the rock. Tell us about that moment and that decision about whether you should continue or whether you should stop.
Yeah, so I was climbing one of the harder pitches, and I just had a slip. It was really hot. The sun was out, and my foot slipped off, and I just kind of came into the wall really weirdly and nailed my forehead against the wall, and immediately there was just blood everywhere because head wounds bleed a lot. And we took a little bit of time to assess whether or not I had a concussion, if there's anything more serious going on, and came to find out that there probably wasn't. And so I decided to give myself one more try, even though part of me really didn't want to continue going. I was really, really exhausted. But I kind of decided that I owed it to myself to give it one more shot, and that I deserved to try one more time. And in the end, I was successful.
I was reading about some of your thought processes when you're up there and you're literally hanging by a nail on the side of a wall. And when that decision is before you, do I keep going or do I give up? And I think we may not all, in fact, I can promise you I will never try to do that, but we can all relate to that feeling of being so intimidated by a challenge before you, but deciding to go forward. How did you think about it in that moment? How do you think about those kinds of challenges?
I mean, I think that those types of challenges and those moments when you're feeling uncomfortable, when you're feeling afraid, it's kind of the reason I climb. I think as human beings, and especially, for someone like myself, a lot of times, like, the way that I live is pretty comfortable, and I don't have to force myself into situations that feel uncomfortable or scary. And I think that sometimes those are the most important moments to experience, because they're the moments that we grow the most. And for me, that vehicle for experiencing that sort of edge is climbing. I think that a lot of times people shy away from being afraid. They shy away from that type of emotion. I think in reality, maybe we should try to get a little bit more comfortable with being afraid and sort of analyzing it. I think in a way it can become a strength.
Wow, we just, life lesson number 10.
We just looked at each other and thought,
we're like,
okay.
All right, things to check off. Will you just walk us through a little bit of the logistics? Because I don't get it. You have ropes, but they're just there to kind of be there. They're not there to save you if you fall. Are you eating on the way up? Are you resting? Are you napping? Like, what's happening during
Is there a Starbucks up there?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the route is kind of divided up into rope length. So I'll climb like one rope length and then stop, and then my partner comes up, and then I keep going just like that, kind of like up and down like that, making my way up the wall. And there are little ledges along the way. There's kind of like places where you can actually stand. Sometimes you can lay down. Sometimes you can sleep. And yeah, I do. My partner Alex and Adrian also both had like a backpack on with food and water. So I was eating and drinking on the way up. Because most of the time people spend multiple days on the wall, right? So they're actually sleeping up there and living up there for a while.
This was there are various ways to scale El Cap. This is one of the more challenging routes. It's called Golden Gate. You're the first woman to do it in under 24 hours. I mean, it's one thing to do it. It's another thing to do it fast. Why did you want to do that? Did you have somewhere to be? Free climbing El Cap in a day has always been something that I've wanted to do as a climber. It's sort of like the epitome of big wall free climbing in our world. Just the challenge of like starting from the ground and climbing until you get to the top and not stopping on one of the biggest, most historic features in the world is pretty inspiring to me. And the fact doing it in a day just really distills it down into being only about climbing. So you don't have to bring a bunch of stuff to sleep. You're really just starting at the bottom and going to the top. And actually, one of the reasons I decided to do it was that the first human being ever to free climb El Capitan in a day was a woman via another route called the Nose, and her name is Lynn Hill, and she did it in 1994. And when I first started climbing, she was a huge inspiration to me. And so I don't know, for me it was just something that I'd always had in the back of my mind, but never really thought I would be able to do.
Emily, what did your parents think? Did you call them before? Did you say, I'll let you know when it's over?
The latter. I said I would let them know when it was over. They're used to stuff like this. I've been climbing for 23 years. I did call them on the summit, and they're super happy.
I go back to this question of fear, because those of us mortals down here just can't even imagine how you're able to do that, the athletic feat, the technical feat, but really more than anything else, the emotional feat of conquering fear. Alex Honnold, who's your buddy who climbed part of this with you, I interviewed him when they did the documentary on his climb. I could not get a straight answer out of him, Emily, about like, do you feel fear? I was trying to ask him out, but when I know that you overcome it, but when you're up there, are you afraid? And I guess the same question to you, when you're up there, are you afraid, or are you at some mental place past fear?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And let me just start out by saying I am very different from Alex. I don't know if he feels fear. He's very interesting in that way. I, for one, feel fear all the time. I am afraid. I deal with my fear pretty constantly in climbing. And I think more than anything, the idea to get past is the idea that you have to beat your fear, that you have to conquer your fear. I don't actually believe that that's a thing that we can do. I think once you feel it, it's there, and you kind of have to exist with it and learn how to move through it. So for me, it's less about conquering my fear and beating it, and more about sort of sitting with it and understanding it and recognizing why it's there, and then taking the steps to move through it and to almost use it in a way, almost become comfortable with that emotion and just sort of let it be, even though it's uncomfortable.
I feel chock-a-block with life lessons from you, Emily. Thank you.
I was going to say, I feel people like Googling you right now and looking at all your inspirational talks that you've given, Emily. So thank you so much for being with us. We're so happy for you.
Thank you so much.